Good afternoon. That is when I am recording this video, and this is going to be a very positive video. A very positive video. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Star Wars lives. I know that we've been talking about it for a long time ago. I'm tired. Long time now that Star Wars is dead. No one cares about Star Wars anymore, so people in my comments section tell me. But apparently that is not true, because about a week ago, I got to see Revenge of the Sith re-released 20 years. It was actually my first time seeing it in the theater. Why? Because when it came out, I was a little kid, and my dad was worried that I would be too scared of the movie. It would be too intense for me, even though I had seen all the other Star Wars movies, but there was a big to-do back then about a Star Wars movie being PG-13, and should kids see it, so I did not get to see Revenge of the Sith when I was a small child until it came out on DVD, and we watched it at home on a big at-home theater. So that was my childhood trauma. I did not get to go see Revenge of the Sith in theaters, but I'll tell you why that matters a lot to me, is because I've seen that it does matter seeing a movie in the theater versus seeing it at home. That is why I love going to see movies I have never seen before in theaters, because each time I watch them through fresh eyes. I have seen about 3 Star Wars films in the theater at this point. I saw Empire Strikes Back, I saw Phantom Menace, and now I've seen Revenge of the Sith. And yes, it gave me new eyes for all of them. And I will say, very positive eyes. And before we get to that, though, let it be known that yes, Revenge of the Sith was re-released in theaters, and it exploded. It was like the highest re-release at the box office of all time. It made about the same amount of money that Sinners was doing domestically, $42 million in its opening weekend. And guys, that is crazy for a re-release. Think about it. We have Revenge of the Sith available on DVD. We can watch it on D+ as much as we want. We have probably all seen it 5 million times, but it still made bank for a re-release at the box office. And despite all of the negativity and disinterest around Star Wars, like Andor, no one is watching that show. People showed up to this movie, Revenge of the Sith, despite all of the no one cares about Star Wars anymore talk. So why? Well, because plenty of people out there still do care about Star Wars and still care about this universe. And Revenge of the Sith, I was actually looking forward to seeing that movie more than any other film this year, honestly, because I knew that it would be a positive experience. So let me talk about seeing these 3 movies. Now, I do find it interesting that they skipped re-releasing Attack of the Clones. But let me just talk about the new eyes that seeing each Star Wars movie in the theater gave me. Empire Strikes Back. I always knew the film was good, but when I saw it in the theater, I was just astounded by how shockingly good it was. Just how tight it was with the direction of the movie. Just how tight each scene was when it came to character development. Developing the lore of this world, the romances, all of the character work, the set design, the action sequences, and even, honestly, even when I'm not watching in the theater, when I see Empire Strikes Back these days, I'm just astounded by how good it looks from a cinematography perspective. Empire Strikes Back, there was a reason why those movies blew up the way they did. The craftsmanship behind it, the sound design, just every element firing on all cylinders. Just cylinders. Was that the right word? I don't know. When I watched Phantom Menace, and then, Phantom Menace is considered like this terrible movie by many on the internet, at least, and I went to Phantom Menace, and I was surprised last year, my theater was almost packed seeing Phantom Menace, and that was after months and months of going to, empty screenings at the theater for all of these movies, but people showed up for the Phantom Menace. Now, they left before the trailer for Acolyte, but as I'm watching Phantom Menace, yeah, I'm seeing the flaws of the film. I'm seeing how it was not done as well as Empire Strikes Back, not saying that all the politics necessarily made sense, and the acting was very stiff in many, many areas. A lot of the dialogue did not work. But then I'm noticing like all the positive things from a movie like Phantom Menace. I think that the action sequences are very good in the film. I think that a lot of the philosophy, honestly, throughout these 3 prequels, I think that a lot of that is good. You know, the idea of having all this power with the potential for good, but letting your fears take you over to the dark side, literally, and then becoming the very thing that you hate. I think a lot of it is honestly very poetic, but as I'm watching Phantom Menace once again, I'm just seeing a lot of craftsmanship that we have lost in these years. Like, people don't know how to make a movie that is entertaining on that level, a movie that had memorable sequences like the pod race or the final 3-way battle and all of those things. Those are very memorable sequences. They're very exciting to watch, and there is a reason why, whether it's positive or negative, people are still talking about a movie like Phantom Menace to this day. It's more than just we liked it when we were kids. There is elements to that that gripped us, that we would always remember for the rest of our lives. And it is the kind of excitement generated by that movie that they could do, that is a technique that has very much been lost. Now, I want to talk more about what I mean when I talk about Revenge of the Sith, is that watching Revenge of the Sith, yes, I am seeing a lot of the flaws in the movie. And the flaws in the movie come right down to execution. Because as I was watching it, I was thinking, I think that the reason that every problem with this movie just comes down to it feels like it's a first draft. It feels like Lucas had a draft of a story and it would have been really good, but he needed to revise it. He needed to have it be refined with other people giving him notes on it. And at that point in his life, I just don't think that was going to happen. And so the script went forward as a first draft. And what I mean by that is watching Revenge of the Sith, there are just scenes in that film that hit so hard. Like the scene where Palpatine is seducing Anakin to the dark side in that opera that he's talking about. I think that both actors do a great job. I think that Ian McDiarmid does a great job in twisting the way that Anakin perceives the world around him, sort of using some true elements to bring him over to the dark side, and how Anakin gradually becomes seduced. I think the scene where there's no dialogue, maybe it was a good thing that there was no dialogue, but when Anakin and Padme are just waiting, staring out the window, I never got that as a kid. I think it is brilliant now, and you get so much from the actor's face in that scene and the music. And it's like there would be these moments in the film where George Lucas would just lock in and direct his heart out, that he was really inspired. And that's what I feel as well with the Anakin and Obi-Wan fight at the end. By the way, that is another very memorable moment. I remember that plastered all over posters everywhere. 2 Jedi with blue lightsabers, which represent good, fighting, which that was unheard of back then. And that was just so hyped up. But the fight scene is so well choreographed and so well thought out in terms of a blockbuster action piece. Like, you can tell that the effort went into it behind the scenes in terms of what would be really exciting for this to play out in the scenario and how it would be really exciting to play out. And I remember just being so excited at finding out all these things, like how Anakin, his face becomes destroyed, how his body becomes destroyed, and how these things are set into place with Luke and Leia and all of that. So it is very satisfying in terms of answering the questions and these emotional peaks of the movie, the falling out of Anakin and Obi-Wan, and the fight scenes. Like the beginning fight scene is very fast-paced and it is very exciting to watch. There's just a lot in Revenge of the Sith, and it's all following a very poetic rise and fall vision from George Lucas. I know he was ripping off Dune Messiah, but he was telling it in his own way. And there is just so much in the movie that we just don't see anymore these days. So much craft behind it, so much creativity. Where do the flaws in the movie come in?
You're so beautiful.
It's only because I'm so in love.
No, no, it's because I'm so in love with you.
So love has blinded you?
Yes, there is bad dialogue in the film. Yes, there is poor editing and directing in the film. Somebody tweeted, and I thought that this was very apt, is that Revenge of the Sith is basically a bunch of scenes where characters will stand or sit in silence for 5 seconds before saying what the scene is about.
Sometimes I wonder what's happening to the Jedi Order.
There is a lot of, in between the fight scenes, there is a lot of scenes of sitting down and talking, or walking and talking through hallways, and all of that. It is very boringly shot and edited in those scenes. And that's the problem with what I mean about it being a first draft, is it just comes off as, when you're a writer, and I've written a features film script, it is almost on its through its final revision. I understand that when you're really creative, it's like these peak moments will come into your head of development and excitement, but the actual development, the stuff that actually builds to that point and makes it a satisfying payoff, the stuff in between, that is harder to write. And that's what comes off as the biggest flaw in Revenge of the Sith to me, is George Lucas got all of the peaks right in the film, but he needed the in-between development, because honestly, it's still, if I'm just looking objectively at the film, as great as Anakin and Obi-Wan's fight is, it didn't feel entirely earned at that point for him to completely hate Obi-Wan with the development that we had seen in the film. He seems to be rising as a bit of anger against him, and then for whatever reason, he goes back on it, and then it just is complete hate and blame at Obi-Wan for everything. And I just didn't think that that was earned. I didn't think that as well acted as I do think that Hayden Christensen did give a better performance when he actually became Vader. But while he got a lot of great scenes as Vader, the build-up to get there, and he got some good scenes for the build-up, but with it all together, I didn't think that it actually was earned for him to be Vader at the end. It needed the in-between stuff to justify all the great scenes that were supposed to be the payoffs. That's what it needed. So all of this is to say, and I think that it's perfectly valid if Star Wars fans criticize these movies and the ways that they could have been better. Why? Because we're fans and we're passionate about these things being the best it can be, and fantasizing about what that could be. However, that doesn't take away from what I think are a lot of elements from these films that people really need to learn from, like the exciting set pieces, the tone of these films. Tone is so important to me, and I wish more people would pay attention to it. Tone and atmosphere, and the world building behind these universes, and how George, those scenes in the Revenge of the Sith where he just locked in as a director and locked in with his ideas and was able to really get it to work. There are things in the prequels that you can learn from that have just been lost to time, because we don't have people who know how to make that kind of excitement and magic anymore. And that's why I think people are still going to the theater and enjoying these films. And you do get an enhanced experience with these films if you go to the theater and watch them. And that's why they're making so much money. Prequels have a craft behind them that the sequels and modern Star Wars do not. These people making modern Star Wars, like, I had a better experience of Revenge of the Sith, Phantom Menace, and Empire Strikes Back just watching those for the millionth time than I did with any of the Star Wars sequels, because the people making those films are not on the same level as even the people who made the prequels, and understanding how to make entertaining movies for the audience. And so we need to go back and actually study and appreciate those positive elements of the prequels so that we don't lose that knowledge forever. But it does make me very happy after all this time. People are not done with Star Wars. They are just done with the Disney stuff, because these people are losers. That's what they are. They're losers who don't know how to make the craft that those people before them actually made. Kathleen Kennedy apparently was not a person who ever made those movies work. But people still love Star Wars, and the money, ironically enough, is there. And I heard some people saying, like, I'm not going to give my money to Disney anymore, so I'm not going to go see any of these re-releases. I'm going to go see these re-releases as many times as possible, because I think these people are not going to lose their money no matter what. But it is a big finger in their eye to say that, yeah, the audience is still there with their money for these movies, and you just can't harness them because you don't understand how to make these movies work. You do not understand the story and the rise and fall and the very innocent good versus evil story that Star Wars was supposed to be at its core. You do not have the skills that even these people had at their worst. You do not have the skills that they had at their worst, and you cannot harness the fan base of Star Wars anymore because of that. But we will still enjoy what we like about this universe. And so that is all I have to say today about my brief little retrospective on the Revenge of the Sith on its 20th anniversary. It is a film that, despite acknowledging its flaws, I still see a lot to appreciate about it and learn from it to this day, and I'm so happy that it did well. Thank you all for watching this video. I know it was constructed as a bit more of a ramble. What do you think about Revenge of the Sith? My favorite part is discussing this film and what worked for you and what didn't work for you. What do you think could be learned from it? Let me know in the comments below. As always, you can support me on Patreon or memberships, as these wonderful people have done, and I will see you guys next time.